and we are Football Focus Weekly.
All right. Good evening, everyone. This is the Pep Man, Matt Morrow. We are here once again. This is Football Focus Weekly with Charlotte Football Insiders. And I'm going to tell you right now, man, we got a lot going on. And the crew, we were just talking off screen. We are fired up, and we got the juice, and we're going to bring it tonight. So I'm going to introduce everyone, and I'm going to let them introduce themselves, and we're going to get started because we got a lot to talk about. So we're going to go to the main man, Coach Josh Kroll. Here we go.
Juice man in the building, baby. Juice man in the building. Say we got the juice man in the building. Coach Kroll here, checking in. It's going to be an excellent show. Looking forward to it, baby. Juice man in the building. Let's get ready to go.
All right, let's go to Coach McClamrock. What you got?
Man, no one's going to bring the juice like I do. You already know it. It's Kenneth McClamrock, and it's time. It's time.
I told y'all these guys are fired up, man. We're going to go to the queen of CFI, Cherie Glenn. What you got, Cherie?
Cherie Glenn, I'm giving it to these guys this week. They seem to have all the fire, all that. So we're going to give it to them this week, and we're going to see what they got.
All right, Queen, we hear you. Let's go to our producer, Brandon Black.
Glad to be here, as always. Ready for a good show. A lot of energy. Can't wait.
He has a lot of energy. He's just being real cool about it.
That's me.
And last but not least, and I'll tell you, he's ready. He is literally game ready. This is why he's last. Brandon, Coach Billups.
New haircut, new me. And I got the Godfather of corners on. I got Jalen on, so it's time to go. It's time to lock them down. Let's go to work.
All right, so I told you, everybody got the juice tonight. Game ready. Coach Kroll's representing North Carolina Central. Coach McClamrock, and it feels like he's back at Central Bears on the sideline. The queen trying to even us out, so that's cool. All right, so here we go. Obviously, we got a lot going on. The governor came out and said we got two options. We got option B, reduced days of learning in the classroom. Some, breakdown is 2 days a week, possibly in school, 3 days at home, A-day, B-day, vice versa. Or option C, remote learning. Okay, so we got those two options. All right, with those options, can we have football or not? All right, let's go to Coach Kroll first on that.
Man, I've been very, very vocal about my feel about this. But obviously my perspective on this came prior to the governor coming out and giving us those options, really kind of giving us some guidance. First, I want to kind of give a salute to Governor Cooper, man, for stepping out there. And I know it's a tough time right now. The last thing you want to do is probably be in front of that camera having to give some guidance. So salute Governor Cooper. Again, salute Miss Q Tucker and the NCHSAA. But are we going to have football is a huge question. I think now we're starting to get to a point now where you're starting to realize this is going to be broken down to the district level. It's going to be broken down. It's going to be so segmented. It's going to be broken down to the district level. Here in Charlotte, I'm a resident here in Charlotte. So if you ask me as a resident of Charlotte, North Carolina, are we going to have high school football this year? You then are asking another question. Is a reduced fall football season just as good as having an alternate situation or option? Everybody knows I'm for spring football season. We're not going to go there. Now, breaking news right before we got onto the show, Virginia's just canceled their football season. Literally from CBS from Virginia, from Richmond, canceling the football season. So I don't know, man. You're in between two different states. South Carolina is in a different spot. And Virginia's in a different spot. We call right there in the middle. What are we going to do? If you're asking me, Pep Man, I'm saying no.
Yeah. I mean, there are some comments about that. Q Tucker, people saying that she's in between a rock and a hard place. South Carolina deciding that they're going to have a reduced season. Virginia not having football. the history of the NCHSAA, you've coached in this state for a while. They're going to lean on the side of caution. You know, any chance they get, they're going to lean on the side of caution. So you're right. You know, it is a tough place to be in, but, you know, I agree. You know, you're leaning towards the fact that we may not have, you know, high school football around this season.
Yeah.
All right, let's go to Coach McClamrock on this. We're going to bring him back in. Coach, what are your thoughts?
You know, I'll tell you, anybody can coach from the stands. Anybody can tell you what you should have done differently or what you didn't do correctly or why didn't you try this. You know, as someone who has been very vocal critically against our governor for the past 4 years, I've got to say, man, as Teddy Roosevelt said, it's all about the man in the arena. Anybody can talk the smack, but Governor Cooper, he's got a huge, huge responsibility. I looked it up. North Carolina is the 9th largest public school system in America. Over 1.5 million students go through North Carolina public schools every single year. We've got over 2,700 public schools, and I don't know how many teachers that equates to, but it's a whole lot of teachers. So regardless, we know whatever his decision was yesterday, people were going to be upset. People were going to be critical of it. People were going to be worried, and people were going to be scared. I think that you always, the most important job for him and at this point in time, just like for a head coach or an assistant coach, is the safety of his people. He had to look out for the safety of the students, the safety of the personnel in the school, the safety of the teachers, the safety of the bus drivers, the safety of the cafeteria ladies and the custodians and everyone else who's involved in it. Does football happen? I don't know. If we're all virtual, which a lot of schools seem to be leaning, I think it's tough to say we can't come into a classroom and teach, but yet we can have football games or we can have other athletic contests. I think that's going to be very tough to do. I don't know. You know, I think there are some schools right now who are still going. Last time I checked, about an hour ago, about 52% of the state, there were 85 individual school districts that were still allowing summer workouts, but that number is a little bit misleading because it was only about 36% of the total student athletes that were involved last year were being represented by those counties. Only one of the top 10 districts in the state, I believe Union County, is the only one who's allowing workouts. I don't know. It's going to be tough. It's going to be really tough.
I totally agree, man. You know, like I said before we came on, we have never seen anything like this before. And, you know, as a coach and you don't have a playbook, you know, it's hard to try to figure out, you know, what am I going to do? You know, you're trying to get information as much as you can. Right now, the CMS board meeting is going on in Charlotte. It's been going on since 4:30. And to my knowledge, there still has not been a decision made.
I've been reaching out this entire time, the past 4 months, to friends of mine who are head coaches. You know, what are your plans looking like? What are your contingency plans? What do you do if this happens? What do you do if that happens? And so many times they've come up with these really, really, really brilliant ideas and schedules only to have them dashed at the last minute, a day or two or a week before practice is supposed to begin. I don't know how you deal with it. I mean, at this point, as a coach, the only thing you can do is kind of like, you know, it's Friday night and it's 5 o'clock and the storm clouds come rolling in. You know, at that point, what do? Either it rains and you play, or thunders and lightnings and you don't play. You know, you prepare, you hope for the best. You know, what I've talked to a lot of my coaching friends about is how are your kids responding right now? How are they responding? The ones who are getting able to get out and do some things together on the field, the ones who are just meeting through Zoom and Microsoft Teams. How are your kids' attitudes? You know, and as a head coach, how do you keep them motivated? Because we all know it's easy to wake up at 2 p.m. when you're a high school kid and you're staying up so late on Fortnite or whatever it is they're doing. How do you keep them motivated right now when there are so many questions that we just don't have answers to?
Well said, Coach. Well said, man. That's a lot of great points. We're going to follow up on some of those. Let's go to Coach Billups and get his thoughts.
Great points about both of them, but I think you pretty much already know what they're going to do. I always say attention to detail. I always pay attention to every statement that everybody made. Q Tucker and Governor Cooper, they're doing outstanding jobs there. You know, me, myself being in a leadership position in a major company and stuff like that, you got to make them tough decisions. Everybody's saying it's out of fear. It's not fear. Fear is something, you cannot stop. So I agree with all that. People should not make decisions out of fear. But this is health. You never want to put somebody's health at risk. You want to have the most lower risk plan that you can make. And even when I was in the Army, when we never did too many high risk movements, we always go low risk. That's why we always attack at night and stuff like that, because we know we have the upper hand and stuff like that. But the reason why I say attention to detail, Q Tucker said when she made her statement, I want to say last week, that she don't see us playing any sport if we're not able to be in the building when school starts. Then Governor Cooper, basically he said you could use plan B or plan C, and everybody got excited when they're hearing these schools using plan B. A lot of high schools in different districts, they're using plan B, but the high schools are using plan C. They're virtual. It's going to be, I just don't see it. It's going to be more work for the custodians, the school system. If we don't get funding, like federal help to help fund all the PPE and stuff like that, it's no way you're going to be able to have all them students in there, even at the maximum they say they can have in there. It's going to be hard because you don't have to clean up after every class. They don't probably have to stand outside in the hallway 6 feet apart and stuff like that. So you're really not going to be able to control it. And then high school kids, it's more easy for K through 5, maybe 6 through 8. It's tough. I don't work in elementary school. I don't work in middle school. In high school, it's tough telling the kid, hey, hold right here and wait till we wipe all this stuff down, because you don't have to wipe everything down. And then you look at the face masks and stuff like that. That's money. That's nothing somebody don't give for free, because it was at a point it was hard for the hospitals to get the correct PPE. So as much as I want to play football, because I love for y'all to see the rise of my West Charlotte Lions again, but I gotta look at health, and I'm a really big on student athlete first. Even though you want to put yourself at risk, but me being a father, I can't put myself at risk. I have to understand. I have my grandmother and my mother and stuff like that. So you gotta understand that it's not people being scared. They're not scared. It's not people living in fear. It's what is the most lower risk with us still being able to get things done. And then, everybody's a so-called expert. Nobody has dealt with a pandemic. I think the last big pandemic like this was 1917. You know what I'm saying? And even with me, with all the stuff I have done, I had never experienced something like this. You got to be flexible. You got to be patient. And that's one thing I want to stress to everybody. Be patient. Be understanding. Know that these kids, we don't see a lot in the school-age kids era that's really getting it and dying, but look at our educators. Look at their ages. They're in that bracket that's pretty high. The bus drivers. We got to think about that. We got to stop thinking about self, and we got to think about others. You got to have a heart. You got to think outside the picture. Yes, mental health awareness is big right now. You know what I'm saying? But that's why we got to encourage these kids. Hey, get on the game, talk to your friends, go outside, go out and you got to do unorthodox things. That's what being an American is about. It's about being unorthodox, learn how to maneuver and stuff like that. Boy, you got me preaching early today, but that's how you learn how to maneuver. You got to learn how to move different. You got to be flexible.
Absolutely.
That's how we are.
Yes, sir. Great points. All right, we're bringing in Coach McClamrock on this. Coach, what's your thought on that?
Yeah, I'll tell you what, Coach Billup's got the fresh cut, looking good, man. But God, dog, that color rush jersey is giving me a headache over here, man. Some bright colors going on. I'll tell you, this is where I think things could get really interesting moving forward. And I by no means claim to be a scholar here, but I've got a couple of questions that may get interesting coming up. Number one, does Governor Cooper really have the power per our state constitution to do the things that he's doing currently? And where I see that becoming an issue is we just talked about there are currently 85 school districts that are allowing some type of summer workout as of a few hours ago. In some of those more rural areas where they don't have the case count that we have in a Cabarrus County or in a Mecklenburg County or a Wake County or a larger, more condensed area, I wonder if any of those districts are going to try to challenge Governor Cooper's rulings. The fact that they should be in school, the fact that they should be playing, because there's a big discrepancy among the state of North Carolina from Manio to Murphy. And I'm just curious to see what plays out there.
Great points, Coach. We got a lot going on behind the scenes. But those are some great points. And now if someone steps up and tries to challenge the governor, I don't know how that's going to go, man.
Yeah, I don't either. We live in a litigious society. We know that. We also know that there are a lot of passionate people on both sides. I mean, I've seen people just going crazy on social media today and yesterday. Personally, I fell asleep yesterday. I was taking a nap when the governor did his thing. It is what it is. But it'd be interesting to see if anyone challenges the governor, if anyone steps up. 3.5 months ago, we didn't think we would see anybody challenge the governor in the whole stay-at-home order, and we begin to see people begin to do that. Now we're seeing gyms open up to find the governor's orders, and nothing's really happening to them. It'd be interesting to see if any school districts, especially these schools that are a little bit more isolated, if they challenge the governor, especially if it looks like sports could be canceled.
All right, let's bring in Coach Crowell. He's got something that he wants to add off of that. All right, Coach, you got it.
I'm going to play a little devil's advocate here, Coach. Coach McClellan, I'm going to play a little devil's advocate here. Is there a situation with us knowing we got 85 counties that are actively participating in workouts? The majority of those counties that aren't dealing with workouts right now, is it safe to say that these are the big counties, Mecklenburg counties, the Wake?
9 of the 10 largest school districts in the state are not allowing workouts currently, and there are only 3 in the top 20, and that was as of yesterday.
Perfect. So I'm going to play a little devil's advocate. Are these counties willing to try to look at this as an advantage for them if there's a situation where Wake, Mecklenburg, and I always talk about the big 5, Mecklenburg, Wake, Winston-Salem County, Guilford, and Durham County, is there a scenario or situation where if those big counties say, you know what, we're not going to return to play, these small counties might look at it like, this is our shot to have all the spotlight.
Mm-hmm.
Are you kind of getting that feel? Because I know I'm personally starting to get that feel that it almost feels like these big counties are darned if they do, darned if they don't. Mm-hmm. If you got a county like Mecklenburg County with all of these high schools here, 95% of the high schools here, with the exception of these directory schools like Performance Learning Center and the middle college and things of that sort, the rest of these schools are 4A schools. That means you're talking thousands of students. They are almost in a situation where they're reluctant to make a decision on going to sports. Mm-hmm. And they know, if they're being honest, they know that sports is a big caveat for why parents are deciding on whether or not they want plan C or plan B. They know sports is a big part of that. Scholarship opportunities, the opportunities for exposure, all of these different components. So if I'm a small county superintendent right now, and I don't want to devalue them by calling them a small county superintendent, but I'm going to call it like it is. You're a small county. Mm-hmm. You're a small county. If I'm a small county superintendent or if I'm a small county athletic director, and I know that I may not have a chance to beat Vance, I may not be able to have a chance to beat Wakefield, I may not be able to beat the East Forsyth, and these counties are the ones that are considered hotspots, am I not kind of pinpointing right now like, this might be a chance for us to go get a state championship on the books? I don't want to hear about no asterisks neither.
And I'm going to take you a step further, Coach. From my understanding of what Cabarrus County is deciding to do, they're going with a version of Plan B. And this is what my understanding is, and we haven't gotten a whole lot of guidance from the county yet, that teachers are going to be in the building 3 days a week. all students are going to be in the building 1 day a week. So what I can assume from that is 1/3 of the students will be in the building at a time. Now, there are schools in Cabarrus County, some of the larger 3A schools, take a Cox Mill, take a Hickory Ridge, take a Central Cabarrus, that are pushing close to 1,800 students. Divided by 3, that's 600 students. Well, we know there are a whole lot of 1A and 2A schools that do not have 600 total students in the schoolhouse. And I think this has been where a lot of people, and where I've had some issues from the beginning, when you make subjective numbers like 10 people or less, or 25 people or less, it's not really the number of people, it's the number of infected people. You only got to have one person to be infected to spread it. You can have 100 people who are good to go. And so I think that you bring up perfect points for these smaller school districts that have 1A and 2A schools. If their total student population is less than what a Hickory Ridge or Myers Park or North Mecklenburg or fill in the blank, these larger schools, less than what they're going to have per day on campus, what justification does the governor have to say they can't be on campus? And if they can't be on campus, they can't play sports. I mean, I just think there's so much to this, and I don't think that the governor really answered a whole lot of questions that people have right now.
I will say this. This is why we're seeing an influx of conversations about private school and NCHSAA.
Yeah, I've been curious this whole time. Of course, we see private schools here in Charlotte that have been working out. I reached out to some friends, not private school coaches, but I reached out to some coaches this week who have been going through workouts. What are their numbers like? What's participation like? What are kids' minds like? And it was the gamut of answers. Some schools were higher than they were last year this time participation. Some schools were about even, and then some schools were much lower. In fact, one coach told me that they were down to basically youth league practice numbers, that it was really, really, really low. But I'm curious. I know there are 4 cases that have been diagnosed in public schools, North Carolina, 4 cases of the virus. You know, I wonder what those actual numbers are for these schools that have been going for a couple of months now, a couple of weeks. What does that look like? How has it been? I think that, you know, that could potentially be an example of what we could look like moving forward in a positive, or, you know, going the other way. I don't know.
All right, so man, that is some great stuff, guys. Really detailed. You know, we got some great comments I'm going to share here in just a minute.
Guys.
That's a little inside joke. But we're going to go to Brandon Black. We're going to get his thoughts on this right now.
I think the governor and, you know, everyone else in leadership, they're in a tough situation. Unfortunately, no matter what decision is made, someone's not going to be happy. They just have to try to make the best decision for the majority, you know, of the students and the faculty. As much as everyone on the show loves football, everyone watching loves football, I think everyone can agree that the safety of the students and the faculty itself is the main priority. You know, football is dangerous enough without having to, you know, dodge a pandemic as well. But it's going to be tough, because if you have a sort of a hybrid scenario where you got kids on campus some days, kids at home some days, well, how do you practice and really have a consistent practice system in place? You know, is a kid going to be at home and then have to go to school to practice, or are you going to have to only have, you know, a couple of days of practice a week? It's not ideal at all. And then one big thing that I hope can come of it is, you know, some sort of system in place to, you know, help these kids. If there's no football, well, how do they fill that void? Because we know, depending on a situation that a kid comes from, football is their escape from reality sometimes. It keeps them out of adverse situations and things like that. So, you know, definitely got to be concerned with what will happen to some of these kids if they don't somehow fill that void and keep that camaraderie going.
You know, you bring up a great point, and it's been stated by several coaches I follow on Twitter, and the effects of this on kids. we know, playing at Harding, we knew we had teammates and classmates that if they didn't have football, they wouldn't be where they are today. They'd end up in the streets or, even something worse. Right. And there's a lot of kids, talented kids out here in that same boat. And, we talked about, all the political stuff behind it, so forth and so on. But I think the one thing that is lost in this is, the state of the kids. And the kids want to play, covering the VTO camp. We saw that, this past weekend. I'm going to bring everyone in now because there's something else we need to talk about. And that is the NCHSAA came out with a statement after the governor spoke today. Or yesterday, I'm sorry. I'm getting all this is running together. And, the NCHSAA, pretty much said that the start of fall sports is delayed until at least September 1st. First 5 student days of the school year will be designated as a dead period for all sports. Are they setting us up for the fact that we're not going to have sports, or is this a legitimate thing to where hopefully, September 1st, are we really going to, experience fall sports and most notably football? Let's start with Coach McClamrock on this, and then we'll come down the line.
I don't know. I think the state is putting a Band-Aid on a gushing wound, man. We've had an arm lost in combat, and they're trying to patch it with a Band-Aid because that's all we have available to us. There are so many questions. I mean, I don't think that this virus issue is going to be gone on September the 1st. I don't think it's going to be gone on November the 1st, and it's probably not going to be gone on February the 1st. I think that this is an issue that's here to stay. September 1st, I don't know. I don't know.
If I learned how to work this right, it would be a lot better. But those are some great points. I mean, in a pandemic situation, like we were saying earlier, there's no playbook. We don't know, what is going to happen in the future. It kind of like goes back to last week when we were arguing about if we're going to play in the fall, we're going to play in the spring. You can't predict the future. I mean, no one thought right here, July 15th of 2020, we'd be sitting here talking about a global pandemic that has just hamstrung our lives. Let's go to Coach Billups and see his thoughts on the NCHSAA and what they're deciding to do.
Honestly, like I said earlier, I think everybody's like fear, but this time you see another form of leadership. And when you're that lower tier, you don't see what the higher tier does, and then you don't try to make something that is similar to what the higher tier say. So I get what they did, what Q Tucker and them did, what Governor Cooper said. They all it's a hope. It's a wish. I wish it would, a wish factor, but it's just one of them things you don't know about. It's like 1917. I think we ought to review like how they did stuff back in 1917, the last time we have a big pandemic like this. One thing big about the sports are, and I think if they could fund every school athletic department for the district, for the whole state, we won't be having these conversations. We'd be like, hey, we don't play football with no fans in there. Similar to what the NFL is talking about doing and stuff like that. I hope, we've been saying for the longest since this happened, September 1st is a good date. Like maybe the curve would be flattened now. I agree. You just don't know. Like I said, with 1917 thing, it was 2 years. It took 2 years before they really got a hold of that pandemic. And it's probably gonna take that same time, but I believe that we as a nation could come through this and figure out a way. But like I said, I would not want to work in Raleigh and be Q Tucker or Governor Cooper. I will tell you that. I'm glad I'm Brandon Billups.
Well, Coach Billups, we got a direct comment about your reference to 1917, and we're going to throw it up here.
Go ahead. Let's go.
Lee B. Johnson 3 says, I don't think sports were this big back in 1917, Coach.
Baseball was.
Lee is actually our guy that had the first ever comment on Football Focus Weekly, so I had to get him up here, and he's got another one that we're going to get to in just a second.
But I agree, but at the same time, it still makes sense, because if y'all more worry about sports instead of overall health, where's that human aspect? Where's the human aspect? And I think that's what a lot of people are missing out on. We can have these conversations and keep kids mentally focused and stuff like that, because what about people who come back from the wars and got PTSD, got all kind of night chills and stuff like that? We help them out. We provide that service to them. So right now, we don't have to get out, kids, like I said, it's not like they can't be around their friends when they're outside. It's just, you cannot go out there and play organized football. You can. Let me take that back. You can do that. But how old are their parents? Their parents are not 17, 18 years old. So they're at high risk to get it. And children are like the outbreak monkey. You ever see Outbreak? Watch it. I would hate for, I go out there and then I come around my grandmother and she gets something, it's like, you got to think about the human aspect. But hey, I think outside the box.
Well said, Coach. Well said. All right, we're going to bring in Coach Kroll and get his thoughts on this.
Well, I'm going to say this, Coach. You hit that last part right there is the part that I really kind of don't think that anybody's taking a real look at. If we're taking it from the human approach, we're looking at it like, my chances of me going out as a football player, as a coach, and getting in contact with somebody on the football field that could possibly end up giving me coronavirus, even asymptomatic. And then I get in the car with my younger siblings. I get in the car with my parents. I get in the car with my grandparents. I go and act like everything is normal and then mess around and make them come into contact. You right on the head, Coach. It is about humanity. South Carolina is behind on this. They got this wrong, but not all the way wrong, okay? Here's why I say they don't got it all the way wrong. They are drawing their line at the point at which I talked about a couple weeks ago. People are going to have to start being honest and realistic. Now you got counties and people that's got to be honest about the impact of football specifically. You saw Virginia. They came out and said football is going to be canceled. People are going to have to start being honest about the impact that football has on their economy, has on their fiscal year, on their budgets, how you're going to pay people, the quality of people you got to pay. South Carolina ain't too far away from Texas and Georgia and how they put facilities together and stadiums and all of that stuff. They're not too far behind. So when you look at South Carolina, them making a crazy decision to us up in North Carolina, I'm a North Carolinian through and through. But as a North Carolinian, this looks like a crazy idea because we really got subpar facilities compared to right when you go below the border. We had this conversation a year ago. We was talking about stuff a year ago. We were talking about all the coaches from Charlotte and North Carolina who was going south of the border, who was going there for better pay. They were going there for better resources. They were going there for better facilities, not better athletes because North Carolina got just as good as athletes, but they were going there for all the perks. And so when you think about all those perks that they're offering, we got to bring some money in. So South Carolina's making a decision to say, business is more important than humanity. Now, on that component of it, they are dead wrong because you are now risking the lives of everyday human beings for the simple fact that you being able to continue to keep your facilities looking nice, continue to have the money roll into your program, and continue to be able to pay your head coach whatever amount. I don't know what they paying head coaches down there, but whatever amount you pay your head coach, you're now having to figure out a way to continue to keep paying that in an erroneous way. I mean, you're risking the lives of everyday people for the sake of being able to keep the physical component up. But they're drawing their line in the sand. North Carolina is a little bit, we've always been super, super conservative on having to make decisions like this. We always have. So I think South Carolina obviously is wrong. And you're right, Coach McClemore, when you said they put a Band-Aid over a gushing wound. But that gushing wound, where they got that gushing wound, if you South Carolina and you've been paying all these coaches and all this, doing all this stuff, that gushing wound is all. And to them, it might look like it's better for me to put a darn Band-Aid on this than to not be able to use the leg at all. And that's a terrible way to approach this. This is a pandemic. But as a North Carolina, I'm only looking at this from the view of a North Carolinian. It's going to look weird to me. You know, coaches get paid. We still get paid stipends here in North Carolina, if you're lucky to get that. So, you know, that's just my point on it, Coach.
Well said. There's a lot of great points in there, Coach. Man, I appreciate all of that. And we're going to get to South Carolina here in just a second. We're going to really dig into that next. Let's get the final thought on this from Brandon. You got it.
You know, the leadership in North Carolina, they're trying their best not to make, you know, sort of a knee-jerk reaction. They don't want to, you know, just flat out cancel everything. Then a couple months go by and decide, you know what, well, we could have had football. So I think it's better to put a delay in and, you know, leave the door open than to just shut the door and realize maybe you could have done a little something. Because even starting September 1st, that gives you time to, even if you let teams practice for a couple of weeks, scrimmage or whatnot, that still gives you time to have 7-8 games and then a shortened, condensed playoffs. But, you know, like we've been saying, that the safety of the kids, the safety of the staff and the coaches is what's most important. So, you know, at the end of the day, no one's going to argue that anything should come before that. But I think they're just trying not to, you know, shut the door prematurely. But, you know, you got to commend them for putting safety first.
Good stuff, man. Good stuff. Well said. We're going to bring everyone back now. We got a lot of comments to address here. And the first one I'm going to address is actually from our good friend, Mr. Michael McCarver, part of CFI, decides to chime in on this. Y'all ain't playing no football this year. Now, all right. Well, Mike, I mean, come on, man. We got to stay positive on this, man. We got to believe that it can happen.
It's not happening.
Nah, but you gotta agree with him, because after what that person from the CMS person, the doctor, he pretty much canceled.
Yeah, and what Coach Bills is referencing is the CMS board meeting that was going on right before we came on. We were all watching, hoping they made a decision, but they hadn't. But they had a doctor come in from Atrium Health and just talking about all the safeguards and precautions that need to go into, you know, possibly having school. And when they went through that, it was pretty much a wrap, if you could say, after you heard all that. Let's get another comment in. Our buddy, Lee Johnson 3, sports aside, our kids and our kids' education are at risk no matter what. Totally agree with that. You know, it's tough, man. It's tough right now. We've got so many things that we have to deal with, and it's a group effort. It's a team effort. We got to be collaborative. You know, guys, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, you know, you almost got to kind of, you know, when you look at that comment, I know me, I got to take a second to third look at that comment. Sports aside, our kids' education are at risk no matter what. You know, how are we saying that? You know, are we saying that like no matter what, kids and the kids' education are at risk anyway? So, you know, are we saying it like that? Or are we saying that, are we in a time period right now where, you know, all of those things are at risk? You know, and how somebody will perceive that statement will depend on what side of the argument they'll be on. And from my opinion, I know if I'm just kind of breezing through and I look and I say our kids and kids' education are at risk no matter what, I could possibly say, so are you saying like that's happening regardless? And so we really shouldn't even be taking these steps and these provisions in place just because? I'm not saying that's how I'm looking at it. I'm saying that can be a perception that can be given to that type of statement.
Well, just, you know, y'all offense guys been killing me tonight. Just, you know, you work in the system, and Coach McClanrock, he's a teacher. He's gonna agree 100% where I'm about to say. That virtual learning, the options they're using for it, like basically, it's like the Wild Wild West. they're not really gonna learn because you're just telling kids you don't be virtual 5 days a week. You only got to sign in once. That's when they don't check once. They don't take attendance one day. They're not gonna learn like that. And a lot of them kids, they're not gonna see that they suffer right now. But when they get to college, and you're in there, and you don't miss out on 10th grade English, 11th grade English, the math and stuff like that. I ain't talking about your elective. I'm talking about your core classes. Like, you need to be in them English classes. You need to be face. You need to have the interaction, because a lot of people, when I was at Providence last year, them kids would stay after school late. Even when I was at, when I was coaching at Hopewell, them kids they're really big on their academics. A lot of these student athletes are big on their academics. A lot of people don't have I know adults who don't got the responsibility to do online learning. So now you don't get it. You don't give like some 16-year-old kids online only. It's not that we're not setting them up. Hold on, offensive guy. I ain't finished. But that's what I was trying to say. That's why I get what you're saying. See, I agree with you, Lee, even though I had to throw baseball at you. Our kids are in danger because they're not going to get the proper knowledge and the social aspect, because we already got zombies now as it is, because we all play video games, Snapchat, TikTok, Twitter. That's all the only social interaction you're doing. So now you're taking face-to-face interactions away. It's gonna make it hard for these people to actually be able. These students may grow up and it'd be hard for them to actually have proper communication skills. Like I have a bunch of them when I was a platoon sergeant in the Army. You get these millenniums. I was like, look, that's why I retired. I was like, man, I can't deal with this kid. It just. And then as a coach, and I'm telling you the truth, Crow. You got to coach each kid different. You got to teach each kid different. A lot of them kids not. What about that kid who's not really good with a computer and Chromebook and stuff like that? Maybe he needs the one-on-one, the face-to-face. You ain't gonna be able to talk to Coach Bill's webcam on Zoom every day. Like, Coach, what do I need to do with this? Hey, man, you see this right? They need that, and you can't match Coach Bill's energy from a distance from Zoom. I gotta see you face to face.
Because that's what led me to.
Let's go to Cherie Glenn. She's got a point that she wants to make here.
Well, I was just going to say to Coach Bill's point that, unfortunately, we're going to be that this is the new education. It's going to be online, regardless of, COVID or not. I actually had the fortune of going to school online, throughout my college career. So, I understand how demanding it is and how tough it is to work in an online environment. But I think the more that we get into this, this virus, and the deeper it goes, I think that's going to be the new norm. And so we're going to have to teach these kids, like, you guys are going to have to buckle down and do your work. That's just the way it is.
That's well said. That's well said, Shireen. You got your degree online, correct? That you finished?
I got 2 degrees online.
You are a perfect spokesperson for remote learning, and it worked for you.
It did.
Unfortunately, there aren't 80 million Cherie Glenns in the world. I wish there were, because we'd be in a much better place. That's why you're the queen. All right, so we got more comments here. We got one from Jermaine Moss that says waivers should be an option, and that's a great point we haven't touched on yet. There's been some school districts, I believe it was Missouri, that had the one where they're having kids sign a death waiver. Yeah. Is that something that's really practical here, guys and girls?
And CMS, they don't sign a waiver. I'll tell you that, because CMS don't like no risk. They are the poster child of low risk.
They just don't want no paper. CMS don't want no paperwork. They don't want no paper trail that says that we agreed to this collectively. So that's why we now 4 hours in and still having the same darn meeting, but that's the conversation.
I mean, sometimes you got to save people from themselves, though. Do you literally let people go into a situation where they need a waiver? I don't know.
Exactly.
Let people walk off the cliff, even if they say they're okay with it? I don't know. I don't think so.
Very good point. Very good points. We got another comment right here. J.O. say so. They should master the plan for academics and school attendance, then focus on how to approach the sporting program. Thoughts on that?
Bingo.
And if we're taking it from that approach, bingo as well. I did on that.
I actually know that guy.
If we're taking that approach, then there's absolutely no way that we're going to have a football season in the fall.
Yeah,
extension is key.
We got a lot of moving parts here, and there's some great comments, and I love everyone speaking out on this. We got one right here from Karen Belt. Thanks for speaking up about the academics. From a former elementary teacher for CMS 39 years, I'm assuming that's what that means. Free market often brought sports into lessons to motivate some kids. And that speaks to the point of what we were talking about before. Kids need sports, in some cases to stay involved with school. And if they don't have it, we could lose them. Like me and Brandon were saying, we could lose them to the streets, or we can lose them to something worse.
Kids also need honesty too. They need school boards and school administrators and people inside these staff to be honest. It's too much time has gone along, and we were talking about this earlier. All of us were talking about this earlier. I made a statement that it's very rare that you have a school board, multiple members on the school board who are advocating for athletics. Like, we're not being honest and being truthful about the impact that athletics has on the daily life. You think about just even the African American community alone. A large majority of African Americans who grow into being rich get these means by being a superior athlete. But we, on the high school level, we make it seem like it's just an extracurricular activity. These kids are getting thousands of dollars to go get scholarships on the college level. And now they'll get the opportunity, hopefully, if the NCAA continues to keep getting their act right, to be able to profit and benefit off their likeness, which they should have already been able to do. And then they get the opportunity, if they're good enough, or if they made the right plays and done enough, they can get to do this on a professional level. That is what we should be teaching. There's literally not any degrees in coaching. Like some of these programs where these kids on the college level, these programs where kids are, you know what I'm saying, you putting time in, you majoring in sports management, and you really only doing that, or African American art, you only doing that so you can have a major on the college level. You need to really be preparing these kids, because you might not go professional as a player, but your expertise and what you've been able to learn on the college level as a player might be able to help some kids to be able to go and be a professional as a coach. And I see y'all comments too. Offensive coaches all day.
We got an offense and defensive battle, and it's pretty much just Coach Billups going up against almost everyone else on the show. So this is great. This is great. All right, so we got a couple more comments here, and you guys have been awesome. Thank you so much for your feedback. It's really, really engaging. Should reclassification be an option for public schools? Very good question.
Clan Rock.
Yeah, well, yeah, I think that drastic situations create drastic opportunities. We've always had an 8-semester rule. That being said, we've lost a whole junior, sophomore, freshman class who had almost no spring season at all. And if this pandemic continues, and the numbers tend to say that it probably is, it would be tough to say we're going to take away another full season. So some of these guys, you're talking about 2 entire sports seasons for these spring athletes. I've said this before. I don't see wrestling happen. I don't see basketball happening. I just don't see those sports happening. Reclassification might be a way. Another question that we've had, and we've talked about this, is with colleges. You know, colleges have a limited number of scholarships, and these colleges that have the NCAA that has said that spring athletes, baseball players can stay on for another year. If they continue to stay on, they're taking scholarships away from high school kids. Reclassification, an extra semester, it's not a bad idea. It's not crazy to think about right now.
So how do we put that together, though, Coach? How does that get managed?
I don't know. You know, that's the big question. How do you do it logistically? What do you do? I don't know. I think that it's a very fair question to ask, though, and I think it's something that might come up, especially if the fall sports season doesn't happen, especially if the winter sports season doesn't happen.
Very good. Very good points. Great insight right there.
Billups, you got some kids over there at the Dub that you would love to see possibly? I mean, if the opportunity presented itself to be able to reclassify?
You know my motto. I'm always here for the kids first. But the one big thing about that is they don't probably have to go the private route like the quarterbacks have been doing, because public schools are already overcrowded, especially here in Mecklenburg County. You get what I'm saying? And that's going to be tough. So, I'm for it, but it's going to have to be a plan. That means they don't have to put more trailers at schools that already, look at like Mallard Creek, they got a bunch of trailers at their school. And, Independent Park still got trailers. When I went to West Charlotte, they had a whole lot of trailers. A lot of schools have trailers. Even Providence, AK probably has trailers. So it's all about that, about overcrowding.
How many students legitimately would be interested in this? I mean, real talk. When I see kids reclassify now, the first thing that comes to mind is, what in the HE double hockey sticks are they thinking? There is no way in heck I was going to stay another year in high school. I turned 17 and I moved out of the house and got my own place and never came back home. I was ready to go.
18-year-old Coach Billups be like, well, guess I'm going to walk on or I'm going to join the Army. Mm-hmm. And you know what I did?
And that's a good question. Realistically, how many kids do want to reclassify and just to say play football? Is that something that they want to do? We're talking about it from a more, I guess I would almost say, selfish standpoint. But like you said, you flip back when you're 18, you're ready to go, man. You're ready to get out of the house. You're ready to experience some things in college or in the workforce, or like you said, Coach Billups joining the military. That's a very good point.
One thing you probably don't see, Pep, and I say this: they don't reclassify prep schools and private schools. You don't see a lot of people going to prep schools and private schools. You already see a lot of student athletes who, their recruiting go their way. They do the prep route, did the one more extra year. You might see that increase. Dang, I just remember that. Good job.
Guys. So we got this comment from Jamie Richardson. Kids start lifting, conditioning in January for a season that starts in August. How do you fit that into a month or two? Move it to January and let these kids get a fair shot. We kind of talked about that last week. We saw South Carolina turn down the spring season and resoundingly 16-1 in the vote. Coach Kroll, that's why I won the debate last week. But I think we kind of know at this point that I don't think we can play football starting in January realistically. Mm-hmm.
But who you really should get to get their opinion on is the guy with that West Side Barbell shirt on there, because that's a weightlifting guy, and he'll tell you how important strength and conditioning is for. So don't ahead and let Ken McCamrock lead that off there.
All right, Coach, you got it.
No, I think we've touched on this. We've touched on how unlikely I think it is, how silly I think it would be for us to start practice on September the 1st and kids not have done anything at that point since March. I'm not going to matter. That's 6 months, and then to play a game 3 weeks later. I think it's crazy. I think it's dangerous. I think that the health of our kids is always paramount, and he's exactly right. 6 months off, September 1st, and they haven't done anything. Well, that's a lot of injuries waiting to happen.
I got a question for him, Pep. Hey, Coach McClain, how much time do you think is needed? That is needed for physical training, just doing getting back going, because we usually start in the summer doing conditioning, lifting weights, so we'll play a full-blown season. So let's say you get 2-3 weeks. How long a season you think could be played with just that short time lifting?
As a head coach, I never thought that 5 weeks in the summer was enough. I always felt like we needed that 6th week and really the 7th week if possible. I hated when they made those 2 dead periods. You walk outside today and my temperature said 89, but the real feel was 103 degrees. You tell a kid all of a sudden you got to show up and start running sprints, and they've done nothing. I mean, it's just, I think it's a recipe for disaster. And real talk, there are really, really, really good coaches out there, but there are also some coaches who still coach the way that they were coached in 1973. And they say, you know what, go run that 1600 or go run those 16200s or go do this, and we don't care. And if you're throwing up, that's a good practice. Let me tell you something. Throwing up don't mean it's a good practice. Throwing up means I had too much sausage biscuits at McDonald's on the way in.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that the conditioning aspect of it, I think that the mental aspect of it, I mean, to go from doing nothing to all of a sudden, in 2009, I got to Concord High School with Coach Padgett as an assistant coach. And our principal, who I love dearly, Carla Black, she asked me, she said, Coach, what are we looking like this year? And I didn't think we were a very good football team. And we started 0-6 that year, won the last 6 games, or won 6 in a row after that. But I told her, I said, Miss Black, we're not going to be a very good football team. She said, why not? I said, because our kids mentally do not know how to focus. They don't know how to focus in the classroom. They don't know how to focus in the weight room. They don't know how to focus in the film room. They don't know how to focus on the practice field. Like that mental component is huge in football. Huge. And we all know that the first thing that goes when you're tired is your mind.
Mm-hmm.
Suck and win because you haven't done anything for 4 months, 5 months, 6 months. I mean, I think realistically, to get kids ready to go, I think 5 weeks is the bare minimum. I really do.
Thank you for that.
Well said, Coach. Well said. And this is going to lead into our next. I got a great comment here. It's going to lead right into our next question here. So Jermaine Moss says, if CMS doesn't play football in the fall, don't be surprised to see a lot of North Carolina players on South Carolina rosters. And Jermaine, I think you're nail on the head on that one. So we saw today South Carolina said that they're looking at playing 7 regular season games. Looks like they're starting in October, shortening the playoffs. I think I saw 3 or 4 rounds of the playoffs. So obviously there's going to be a lot of attention, tuned towards the upstate South Carolina schools, especially. Right. What are our thoughts on that? Me personally, like some of you guys said earlier, they're throwing caution to the wind just to get some football in, and with this pandemic, we don't know what's coming down the line. Coach Kroll, let's go to you first.
I mean, we're talking about making chicken salad out of chicken. This is one of them situations. I mean, Jermaine, man, you hit it right on the head, especially right here in Charlotte. And, we're talking about right here in the good old city of Charlotte. I will not be surprised to see it either, man. I won't be surprised to see some kids that we know that technically are in this area who have parents who are willing to drive them to Wazoo to get them on the football field to evaluate and observe and get the film. I won't be surprised. North Carolina is going to come to a point where they're going to have to make a decision. And I know that there is a good group of people who are against a spring football season. But if North Carolina decides to come out and say, hey, we're just going to go ahead and let, maybe you guys put some kind of simulated workout schedule to go, for the end of the fall where guys can start working out and all of that good stuff. And then there be a season in January, at least that will give them some sort of a something to kind of fall back on, But if you just kind of continue to keep playing this delay game, I will not be surprised to see some kids go south of the border and decide to go down to South Carolina, put some pads on, and play a shortened season just so they can get some film.
I definitely wouldn't be surprised by it at all, not one bit. Especially like you said, the upper state SC schools, the Rock Hill Highs, the South Points, the teams, those schools that are right over the border, where it wouldn't be that big of a deal to make a short move down the highway. We know for a fact, there's parents, there's kids out there. You could tell them, hey, Corona's still out there. We both know there's parents and kids that's willing to risk it. They'll take that chance. If that means, especially a kid that maybe has a couple offers, not really any that they're really interested in, they're gonna take that risk. I see both sides of it. A kid that was, right on the cusp of greatness and, maybe was about to have their breakout season. Maybe they've been playing behind some real good players and their senior season was going to be their year, so to speak. Maybe a guy that's been, behind a great quarterback or a running back that's been buried on the depth chart. How can you argue with that? But at the same time, we have those kids that are going to get uprooted for maybe the wrong reasons. Because unfortunately, we know there are more high school football players that are not going to play in college than that are. So do you want a lot of kids getting their lives uprooted just at a shot of a scholarship when maybe football is not even, college football may not even be in their future? So I can kind of see both sides of it.
I totally agree, man. And then you got to think about this. There are some kids that would probably want to go to South Carolina, but they don't have the means. So what do they do in this situation? It's a double-edged sword here. All right, let's go to Coach Billups on this and get his thoughts.
Truthfully, it is what it is on that. Parents make that decision, not kids. So I would tell all my coaching friends that you have a player that tells you that, hey, I'm going to transfer to school in South Carolina, hug them, say you love them, and just root for them. But also tell them, say, I hope you've been lifting weights. I hope you've been conditioning, because it's a different kind of ball down there too. And, I commend any parent who makes that decision. It's tough times. You feel bad. You're a parent or incoming 9th grader or rising 10th grade. You probably like, okay, I could see 2 years. But the 11th and 12th grade parents right now, they got some tough decisions. And we as coaches, we can't fault them for making the decision they feel is right for their household. And we all have to stop being so critical of that. We all have children. We all got to make that decision one day. And, I pray that I don't have to make one, but you don't do what's best for your child's interest. So I respect it. I understand. So that's all I got to say on that topic. I get it.
Well said, Coach. Well said. I appreciate your insight on that. Coach McClamrock, you got the last shot here, man.
Yeah, I think Coach Phillips hit on the head. If a parent believes that their child's best interest is to go to South Carolina to play his senior year, go for it, man. If North Carolina doesn't have fall football, go for it. It's a no-brainer, I think, if you're comfortable with that, if you feel safe with that. But here's a question I have. Let's say that North Carolina does start September the 1st. Let's say there's a 4 or 5 week practice period. So that puts the first contest the second week of October. Let's say that we do like what South Carolina's doing and we have a 7-game schedule. I count 4 conferences in North Carolina that have 9 or 10 team conferences. When I first became a head coach, I was involved in a 10-team conference. We had 2 non-conference games, and it was wild. But you've got in the 3A, you've got the Mid-Eastern that has 9 teams. You've got the split 3A, 4A Patriot Athletic League. You've got the Western Mountain League with 9. And then the 2A, the Three Rivers League, they have 10 teams. So if we play a 7-game schedule, there are 4 conferences that are going to have more issues to come up with, more issues that lead to question marks like conference champions. What if the 2 best teams in the league don't play because that's the game that got cut? How does that affect playoff seeds? Those are questions that I think will have to be answered. And I think that you guys are right. I mean, we're putting Band-Aids on it, hoping that we can come up with a plan later because we're doing it on the fly. I mean, we're building the boat while it's in the middle of the ocean, unfortunately, and that's where we still are, and I think that's where we're going to be for a while.
That's well said, Coach. That's some great points, and I think those are points I want to hit on next week's show on how this structure goes. Once we have some more information on, who's playing, what districts are still going to practice, things of that nature, we can start looking at, possibly who can play who in these conference game scenarios. So, thank you for bringing that up, man. That's a great point. There's one other piece of this that I'd like to ask everybody. And the question here is, and it's kind of been bubbling under the surface a little bit, hadn't got a lot of attention, but what considerations can we make for players, especially seniors, that need game tape for college evaluations and try to get them on the next level? It's something we touched on last week when we talked about the camps. We did the VTO camp this past weekend. Cherie and Brandon were there with me. A lot of talent was on the field. We got some film on them. But at the end of the day, it's still not real football. And, those kids that are borderline, I think Coach McClamock, he talked about that a little bit also. Those borderline kids that can play on some level of college football, but they just need to be seen. If we don't have football here in North Carolina, what can we do for those kids to help them out? Let's go to Coach Kroll first on this and get your thoughts.
Well, what I would say is head coaches, this is when you earning your paycheck, man. Yeah, and I know it's not a lot on the paycheck. I get it. But this is where you're earning the opportunity that you've gotten. Right now it's going to be really, really big and really, very important for coaches and the entire coaching staff to be going out and promoting and advertising and talking to coaches and talking to other evaluators, talking to, just scouts and all of that in any of these programs to try to help these kids get evaluated, to help these kids get some offers. What I would, advise is that, apart from my career as a coach, everywhere I've been, it didn't matter if I was a head coach or I was a coordinator, I've always been about the business of helping to get kids recruited. It's always been one of the top things that's always been on my list is talk to as many coaches as possible on the next level, no matter where they were, to try to help these kids get an opportunity on the next level if that's what they really want to do. But on the other side of this, we've almost got to start holding these next level coaches accountable as well. We got to use this as an opportunity to say, man, what are you doing right now? Are you evaluating inside the Charlotte area right now? And if you are, here are some kids at my school that I think you need to start taking a look at. Some 2021 kids. If you are a 2021 kid and you got some offers, right now is not a bad time for you to go and use some insurance. If you got some offers for some programs, there's nothing wrong with you going ahead and verbally committing somebody as insurance. That doesn't mean that you're not going to get an opportunity later, but the fact that if you have some opportunities right now, if you have some schools that have offered you, right now would be a really good time for you to go ahead and verbally commit to somebody and go ahead and get yourself some insurance, because you never know what's going to come out of this situation and what's going to be on the other side. For my kids who don't have any offers, right now I need you just, the only thing that I can play is patience. Patience. Right now the system has kind of got you in limbo. Be patient. It's going to come. Your time is going to come. It's going to come as an opportunity. And review all your options. A lot of what Coach Bill is talking about. No coach should feel any type of way if a kid is evoking on an option that's going to help them to get a better look. So that's my that's what I would say for a kid that is in this situation right now.
Great stuff, Coach. Let's go to you, Brandon. What's your thought?
I think this is going to be a group effort. Everyone's going to have to be involved in this. This is not going to fall on the shoulders of just one particular group. Like Coach said, the coaches now, let's say we don't have a season or we have a reduced season, then that's where they're going to have to help, get some of their guys' names out. The camps are going to play a role. Kids are going to have to make sure, kind of stay in contact with coaches that have reached out to them. And, just to state the obvious, even people in our situation using our platform, CFI, to help, some of these kids get their name out there, and kids just gotta hope that they have at least enough film from, let's say a 2021 kid. Let's just say you hope he has enough film from maybe a sophomore, junior year to piece something together to at least give a coach some idea. And there's gonna have to be some leniency from the college coaches. They're gonna have to understand that, hey, you may not get the amount of material from this kid that you typically would given the circumstances, because everybody's affected by this. So they can't hold these kids necessarily to the exact same standards that they would in an ideal situation. So that's just the reality.
Brandon, that's some good stuff, man. Thank you so much. All right, Coach Billups.
I'm going to do something I haven't done lately on the show. I don't give credit to the offense coach. Coach Crowell is right. This is time for these head coaches to stop tweeting. Get your staff together on Zoom meeting. Come up with recruiting plans. Find out when you got these camps going on and send it out to these upcoming seniors. Start cutting film up. Call these college recruiters and say, hey, I got some guys that you should look at. Send the film. Ask them what can they do, or what can we film them doing, or ask them to film and send it to you to give you a better perspective. Because I would tell you this, the college recruiters, they got to keep a job too, and they're doing a lot of unorthodox things. You need to get the list of when they're doing virtual, showings and stuff like that. You've been seeing a lot of creative things. It's time for the high school head coaches, especially in our area, and it's no shots. I don't take shots. I'm just stating the obvious because our kids need us, and I don't believe in getting over beef and stuff like that. It's just we need to be kids first. We need to stop saying, hey, we need to get playing football. We might not play football, guys, but these kids still deserve an opportunity. Evan Pryor and them, they got their offers. I'm not talking about the big name. We're talking about the lower D1, the D2 guy who really need this, and they need to see that you really do love them. And sometimes you sit there and you could tell me you love me, but you're not actually showing me. Hey, Brandon, I got such and such from this university. They want to set up a Zoom meeting with you, do a little virtual tour of the campus. Okay. There's a lot of people who are doing it the right way, but we gotta start. You don't see a lot of schools getting that press like some of these other kids. You gotta get these kids out there. They want to play ball. A lot of them want to play ball in school. They need it. And we gotta be kid first coaches. We can't be, hey, I want to go win the state championship. Hey, I want to go make somebody because this guy stole this kid from me. This guy good. No, we need to do what's right by these kids and these parents, because them parents are watching. They're liking your posts, but at the same time, they're watching and they're seeing other people do stuff. So hey, you gotta watch out. It's a critical time.
You're right. And that's. I'm gonna jump on that topic here, and in our next topic, I'm gonna address what you said about putting together recruiting plans and things of that nature, because that's very important right now. But we're going to go to Coach McClamrock here, and he's got the last shot on this. What you got, Coach?
We've talked about this so much. It's such a tough and difficult time for these 21 kids, those Division II types, that even the FCS types. There's something special that happens the second semester of a whole lot of junior kids' careers. About March, and if you've been around high school kids and high school athletics, especially football, you know what I'm talking about. About March, there's a light that goes off for so many kids. I mean, year after year after year, guys who barely got any play and any action as juniors, all of a sudden something clicks in March and in April and in May, and all of a sudden your whole line of thinking turns around. And it's a really, really neat thing to happen. And, at Central, there were those types of kids that were beginning to have those types of things clicking and firing. What do you do? I don't know. I think you're right. I mean, high school coaches have to be on it. As a high school coach, I spent no less than 45 minutes to an hour, probably 330 days a year, just on the recruiting aspect. It was almost 6 days a week, sometimes 7 days a week. And I spent at least an hour on it a day. That being said, there's only so much stuff that you can send to a college coach right now with no new game film. I mean, a college coach doesn't care about little Johnny bench pressing 275 pounds at the YMCA. They don't care about that. They care about how explosive they are. They care about how they move, how they bend. What does the first step look like? So I think as coaches, we mentioned this last week, we do have to be creative. We do have to find new ways to get our kids on film, get them on film moving, get them on film jumping, get them on film in their first steps, showing lateral agilities. One of my favorite things to do with kids is I would videotape them dunking a basketball. A kid couldn't dribble the ball for anything, but he had major hops and he could almost hit his head on the rim. I was going to send that out to a coach. If I saw a kid that had great depth on a power clean or a squat, I would send that off. Those were easy things that I could do. But for the past 4 months, I haven't been able to do a whole lot. I mean, surely by March, any kid's film, 21 and even 22 kids' films, should have been completed by their head football coach, period. So there shouldn't have been a whole lot of film left to do. But, high school coaches getting in the ears of the college coaches, my thought was I probably have 300 college coaches in my cell phone, and I wanted all 300 of those coaches to hear from me at least every other week. So there wasn't a 3-week period when the majority of the coaches in my phone didn't hear something from me, whether that was a congratulatory text after a big win on Sunday, or whether that was just, hey, let me tell you about this kid. Let me tell you about how his grades are going up. Let me tell you how he's killing it in his science class, or what he's doing in the weight room, or what his new vertical jump was or broad jump was. I think that my goal was to make college coaches tired of hearing from me. And I think high school coaches have to be really creative right now in how they're doing that.
Coach, those are some great points. Excellent stuff, man. Just to finish this off, I just want to make one statement right here. Anyone that needs exposure from us at Charlotte Football Insiders, please reach out to us. You can DM us, you can email us, send us a PM on Twitter. One of the things that we do here is promote kids, and we try to promote kids. We do focus on Charlotte metro area, but VTO camp, we got kids from all over the state, North and South Carolina. So if you're a parent watching this, you're a player watching this, you're a coach watching this, and you've got a talented player that you feel like needs some recognition, reach out to us. We'll do an interview on Instagram Live. We can do an interview using this platform right here. Anything we can do to help promote your kids that need it, especially now, we'll be glad to do it. That's why we do this. We do this for kids. We do it to support programs, and we do it to support coaches. And we have a pretty good platform to do that. And we have some relationships with college coaches as well. We have helped kids in the past get into school. I don't promote that just because that's just something that, if you're in this business, I think that's just what you should be doing. If you're not in it to help promote kids, I don't know what you're in it for, to be honest with you. But a lot of great stuff, and that was just our first topic, and we just bounced some questions off of that. We're going to go into the next topic right here, and it kind of leads into what we want to talk about right here, and it's kind of the inverse of what we talked about last week. We have, a lot of player movement here in the Charlotte metro area. We have kids that leave schools and go to different schools, and and I hear from kids, reach out to me, and doing these interviews and just seeing them around, things of that nature, and they talk about why they left a certain school to go to a certain school. Some of it I think is what Coach McClaremont talked about is your tie-ins to college coaches, the effort that your head coach makes in helping promote you is a big reason. You see social media is a huge thing. There are certain schools out here that do a great job with social media and promoting their program, promoting their kids. And then you have some schools that just don't do it at all. And, kids see that, and kids want to be a part of, what's hot. Some schools have, nicer facilities than others. And I can talk about that all day, for the fact that, Harding, and I was an advocate for that a couple years ago, fighting the CMS school board for better facilities there, because I'm a big believer in equitable facilities. But some kids leave for better facilities. Some kids obviously just join a winning team. You got uniforms, all kind of different reasons. Friends, wanting them to come play for them. And you got a coaching staff that's engaging versus a coaching staff that's a little more reticent. So we're going to bring it to our panel, and we're going to come down the line, and we're going to get their feedback and their opinions on why do players, switch high schools. And I'm going to start with Cherie Glenn on this because she's done a lot of interviews with kids, and I'm sure she's had some feedback on this as well. Cherie, what are your thoughts on why do players switch high schools, and why do we have so much player movement here in the Charlotte Metro?
Well, I think it's like you alluded to. A lot of it is just the amount of attention that schools are getting, and or even giving these kids. I think too, especially right now, with kids and parents, going into this situation blindly with this whole COVID-19 thing just kind of running rampant. It's like trying to find the best opportunities for their kids, especially those who are, rising seniors and still trying to make a name for themselves. So, I think it's a lot of that. And I think that, you kind of have to, for me, wonder, especially when you look at schools like, Harding and stuff like that, who are lower, income schools, if they're going to lose a lot of, their talent or, not really get as much talent because these kids are wanting to provide these better opportunities for themselves.
That's well said. That's well said. And we will use Harding as an example. They haven't lost a lot of kids over the past couple of years, that I'm aware of, which is a testament to the culture that's in place at that school. But, I'll just say it. There are schools, like Berry, and we know that Berry has lost, a large number of kids throughout the years. But, they have good facilities. And, I know Coach Howard does a great job over there. I think he's a great guy. But it's crazy, man, to see, some of the same schools get hit over and over and over with this, and you can't really nail down a real reason why. Right. So let's go to Brandon on this, because he's been there with me when we've had some of these talks, after games, with coaches, with players, about this very topic. Brandon, what are your thoughts?
Oftentimes I think a player will just see that they're maybe, a little ways down on the depth chart. They think there's a big name in front of them, and realistically they don't see themselves, overtaking that guy, and feel like their snaps are going to be limited. They'll look to go elsewhere where they'll probably see the field more. And, that's, no one can fault anyone for that. If you can go somewhere where the situation may be a better fit for you and you think you're going to be on the field more, then, no one can fault you for that. And then oftentimes it's scheme. Maybe a school switches coaches, and especially with a quarterback, they may not be a good fit for that coach's offense, so they'll look to move elsewhere. But I'll say that one reason that it happens that, you guys kind of alluded to, which is pretty much not an ideal situation, is that, some of these kids that are at a Harding or a Garinger or, some of these older schools that don't have the facilities that others, sometimes they feel like if they don't get to a Butler or a Mallard Creek, that they don't have the same shot. And that's important. They see how the schools like that constantly are pumping these D1 athletes out and putting guys in college. They're always in contention for championships. So unfortunately, that's a lot of it too. That you have talent leaving these other smaller schools because they just feel like, hey, I won't have the same shot. I got to get to a Huff, a Mallard Creek, a Butler, or I'm just not going to have the same shot. And I think that's unfortunate, and one of the reasons we need, a little bit more balance in the facilities and things like that.
That's a good point. And I actually had a parent reach out to me when his son moved schools. And he said straight out that this other school that they decided to go to, they put a lot of kids in college. And, he felt like his son had a better shot of getting a scholarship at this school. So that was the whole reason and premise why they moved. So that's a good point.
Yeah,
We're gonna bring. Go ahead.
I was gonna say it definitely happens, and unfortunately, if we can level the playing field a little bit, then maybe that'll happen a little less.
Yeah, exactly. We're gonna bring in Coach Billups on this and get his thoughts.
Oh man, I don't been at every school I've been at. I don't have kids leave, and I would tell you this: it's a lot of people say it's the culture. It's the culture. I was at one of probably the best schools with a culture ever at Providence with Brad Bowles and Westwood. Call a spade a spade. The parents, man. We all them sit here and say coaches are recruiting players and stuff like that. They don't got to recruit the player. They got to recruit the parent. Parent, the only person who can unenroll a kid and put them in another school. Parents, we're all parents. We all have kids. You're going to make the best decision. Pep just hit the nail on the coffin. If he feel like this school, somebody said to this kid, and I said it on Twitter today, I said, if you're telling parents, hey, if your kid comes, when your kid at this school, he's going to get a D1 scholarship, honor it. I don't not nobody doing it because I'm not a hater. It's deep. I'm 110% for the kids. Like I said, one of my favorite players left Providence this year, Jake Snap, while I was still the DB coach there. I hugged him. He cried. He said, I got to do what's best for me. I said, hey, man, don't do it. And I still talk to him. It happens. It happens. When I was at Hopewell, one of my best, Ryan, he went from Hopewell to Vance. He was part of that big run they had Brands last year. He left. I said, hey, man, you got to do what's best for you. I understand these children do not want to leave them schools 98% of the time. Even when I was at Providence my first year, I remember we was at 707, a kid transferred from Providence to Mount Creek. And when we saw them, the kids all ran up to the dap him up. They, he didn't want to leave, but he had to do what was best for him and what his parents felt for him. So I can't knock. I used to be a higher, used to be on this. Now I became a parent. Whatever is best for my daughter, I'm gonna do it. That's just me. But I know everybody else got the inside scoop and stuff like that. But there's a lot of people who do great things. Like right now, a lot of schools are behind what Coach Montez Lash is doing at Vance. He does a great job with his social media stuff with Vance football and Vance athletics. Now you're seeing Olympic, their program, how they retransformed that program, social media present. And, you see AK, you see a lot of schools doing it. So, yeah, Pep is right. Them kids are paying attention. Man, the parents, it's like I said earlier, the parents are watching. They will sit there. They will like every comment. Another person you need to put into that is Coach Gray at Rocket River. He had one of his best players left and went to Vance, two of them. And they helped Vance to get that state championship game, Lowry, and then the unfortunate running back who broke his leg. But, look at what Rocket River don't lost and Massey. Even JT Whitmore was there. And look, like when he left, it's not Barry get hit a lot. But I think we need, just make sure coaches, just make sure we're not bashing other programs when you're talking. A parent come out, just tell them do it the right way. You can't get it engaged in them conversation. Let's just have some class. And I wish everybody would do that. Let's have some class and some poise. It's still kids first. Let's be kids first. That's why I would say, and don't sell false hopes and dreams, because you're not crushing nobody but that kid.
You're right. Absolutely. Well said. We got a comment here I want to throw up real quick. David Michael says, the most successful and consistent programs win with their kids. The others are usually 1 to 2 hit wonders.
That's a good statement, but I really don't like saying that. But a lot of this, like I said, he's right. You got some consistent programs who they'll win. They're win. But some of them do have kids, and you can't knock the coaching staff because you're winning. Like Creek and And everybody say what they want to say about Huff. I don't know. I don't know personally. I'm not here. I still coach. I would never slander another coach on this platform because I still coach. And I owe that to my athletic director, Josh Harris. I'm not finna let him get no phone call. But sometimes popularity, man, these kids see, the parents see, you see all that creak. What can your school do, do to compete with that? Look what Vance did. They changed Mud Boy. You everywhere I went, the Mud Boys, Mud. I didn't know that many people like Vance. It was just funny watching it. But it's a culture. You got to get people behind it. It just,
you're right.
It's hard. We know people are doing it, but they have a culture and they're going to get transferred. Every school in Charlotte-Mecklenburg and CMS get transfers. Y'all, I want everybody to understand. I have
said that for years, and I'll tell you, that is true. And when I go around and I talk to different coaches and things like that, I see people, and sometimes I hear, whispers about, this person or that person, or, they lost this player, that player, but there's not a lot of talk about the ones that they gained. Yeah. So,
and I'll say this last thing. I don't think a bunch of grown men are going to sit on Twitter all night and day and talk to a 16, 15, 17. Definitely not Coach Billups. Coach Billups, my baby over here, I'm running Paw Patrol and doing my dead thing. That's why I enjoy it. I'm on my manly. I'm, enjoying my life. It's not, guys, just do it for the kids. Coach what you got. You get something in. Hey, hugging like Crow was saying, welcome. But we got to stop pointing these fingers at people. I'm tired. I know Pep tired of him, but,
everywhere, I'll tell you, everywhere I go, I got to say, but, I don't talk to people. So, Anyway, Coach Girl on this. Coach, what's your thoughts?
Hey man, Billups, man, I don't know if you inside my brain or whatever. The only direction I want to follow in on this is that very last point you made about coaches bashing other programs. That is my only issue. And I'm saying this, and it's coincidence we're talking about this on the segment. I had a conversation with an area kid this week, and we had a conversation about, what I always like to ask kids, what school would you like to be at? What school are you at? And then, a lot of times they'll make a face and say, okay, then I'll ask, what school do you want to be at? And a lot of times then they'll tell me what school they would like to be at. And, then I'll ask them about the situations that are hindering them from going to the school where they want to be. And, that conversation they even end up in, keep working hard or whatever. But this particular conversation, I know, and I'm not going to mention any programs or anything, but having this conversation with this kid, I know that in this program, when you say things like, well, I don't look at it that way, or I don't look at a win or a loss any type of way, because we going to college and them kids ain't. They should really be trying to get over here to play with us because we going to college and those kids ain't. They coaches don't really know what they're doing. Those players really ain't even that good. That program ain't really even that good. My program is this. My program is that. Versus really you just like competition. Like when you talking about being a competitor, like I'm a competitor. Billups, no, I'm a competitor. Coach McClellan, no, I'm a competitor. I'm looking to beat you. But I don't have to knock your knees out or kick your legs from up under you for me to beat you. That's not beating you. That's harming you and creating an unlevel playing field where then now I have an advantage. Now I have an advantage. And so now that I have an advantage, now I can beat you. So that's my only issue with this, is that we got some coaches in this area that just straight up are doing it the wrong way. You bad-mouthing and talking about other men. And you talking about other men as if you're not going to have to eventually run into those men and have a conversation about the things that you're saying about them. My father taught me a lesson as a child. He said, never say something about somebody or never say a thing about anybody that you're not willing to say in front of their face or to them. And that's a lesson that I've always lived by. There's some coaches in this area who are doing that. And they're talking about other coaches and other programs and other grown men and grown women. They talking about other grown men and grown women behind their back. And then when they get in front of their face, they all smiles and hunky-dory, and it's all love and peachy key. And they don't know that the reason why they doing all that smiling is because they looking to gut them when they turn their back and take their kids away. That's different than this kid sees this program. Your program is putting kids in college. You're getting kids recruited. You're helping kids go to the next level. You're developing student athletes. And this kid wants to be over there because that's what they're seeing. Versus you're telling kids that you don't need to, you need to come over here because if you stay over there, you're going to end up at a community college. Your coach ain't really doing nothing for you. Like, that is terrible. And that's and no offense, that's not manly. To talk about another man behind his back and not be willing to say it to his face, it's not manly. That's a lesson that my father taught me, my grandfather taught me, and I don't have a problem with any kids transferring. Trust me, I've been the beneficiary of some kids transferring into me as a coordinator, and I was happy. As a kid, as a head coach, I ain't had no transfer. I had more transfers out. But nonetheless, I don't have any problem with kids deciding to transfer, parents deciding to send their kids somewhere because they know it's what's best for the kids. And if we all are being honest, if we're doing what's best for the kids and we're supporting kids, that's what's best for the kids. I had a high school kid that left me, had to go all the way to Maryland. Broke my heart. I knew I could go win a state championship with this kid if he stayed with us. Left and went to Maryland because his mother got a great job in Maryland. He ended up going to high school in Maryland, won a state championship in Maryland. I didn't feel any type of way when this kid wanted to come stay with me during the summer before he went to go to college. He wanted to come stay with me for a few days and go train and work out and have me and my family cook for him and then get up and just be in the game constantly. I didn't feel no type of way because the kid left me. I couldn't feel no type of way because if I really love this kid, I can't feel no type of way about him. I couldn't talk about him. I couldn't say nothing else. I couldn't say nothing bad about him. And I take the same approach with coaches. If I'm going to have something to say about you to somebody else and you not there, you better darn sure know I'm gonna say it to you if I see you. And that's my only coach. I'm putting my hands in. I don't want no problem.
It's an hour and 37 minutes in, and you still got the juice over there. And I'm over here trying to sip on something to keep me going. I ain't gonna say what's in my cup though. All right.
You the pep man, I'm the juice man.
Let's go to Coach McClamrock and get his last shot on this, Coach.
You know, there's so many great things that have already been said. I'm going to tell you why kids leave schools. Number one, the number one recruiter is wins. Nobody transfers to an 0-11 team. 1 or 2 kids may transfer to a 4-7 team. 3 or 4 kids might transfer to a 7-4 team. But a team that's going 11-0, 10-1, challenging for conference championships, district championships, sectional championships, regional championships, and state championships, those are the teams that kids transfer to. If someone moves into the area and they're looking at 2 separate houses and 2 separate school zones, and they've got a stud athlete, and this school has won 6 football games the last 3 years, and this school has won 3 conference championships, there's a no-brainer where the kid's going. So success is the greatest recruiter there is. Number 2, buddies. Kids recruit their friends to come play with them. Kids that they've grown up with, kids that they grew up playing Pop Warner League stuff with, kids who they know from social media. The best players on your team know what needs you have where. They know what you're lacking. If you need a quarterback, they're going to go out and they're going to try to recruit the best quarterback they can. If you need a defensive nose tackle, they're going to go out and recruit the biggest, strongest, ugliest dudes that they can. The next thing that gets kids, and this has been hit on, I believe that is the brand of a program. And there are some schools, and Coach Phillips just mentioned several of them. There are some schools that understand how important it is to brand your program. At Central Cabarrus, I wanted people to know that we were Hoka Hey. In fact, Pep, I think the first interview you ever did with me, the first question you asked me was, what the heck does Hoka Hey mean? And it was right. It was what we were about. It was what our program was going to look like. And any coach that was going to be on our staff, any kid that was going to be in our locker room, they better know what the heck that meant, because that's who we were. And we put it on everything. It was on every shirt, every shorts. It was on our footballs. It was everywhere. Branded. And so much of that branding comes from, if we're being realistic, a head coach's charisma. The coaches who are often the loudest are the ones who are seen the most. And so when you get on social media and you post all this stuff about your program, people see that. Kids see that. More importantly, parents see that. The kids could care less what you put on Facebook. They ain't on Facebook. They're on TikTok. But the parents are on Facebook. Also, kids want to go where they know they can be recruited. That's been hit on several times already. I had a running track in my weight room that showed all the different colleges that had shown up at Central Cabarrus. I had what date they showed up. If it was a head coach, we marked HC beside their names. If they came to a spring practice, we put a P beside their names. If they came to a game, we put a G beside their names. And kids looked at it and they knew. And we got kids to come out and play for us because they said, holy crap, you've had 147 coaches come by this school year? Yeah, we have. And if you want an opportunity to play at the next level, we're going to give you the best opportunity to do so. Kids want to go where they believe that they can get recruited, but also where they believe the coaches are going to care for them. I asked one of our better players a few years ago. He was trying to get these kids to come, just like we talked about, and some kids were starting to transfer in. I didn't know them. I never spoke to them. But I said, hey, when you talk to these kids, how do you get them to want to come here? Like some of these kids were coming from schools that were pretty good. And he said, Coach, I tell them that the coaches care about us, and I tell them the coach is going to work hard to get them in college. And that's what kids want. That's what parents want. You know, you could talk about the swag. You could talk about the emblem that's on the jersey, and maybe it looks good. Maybe kids care about that. But having Nike jerseys ain't going to get a kid to want to go to a 1-in-10 football team. It's just not. The last thing, and Brandon mentioned it, is scheme. You know, when I became a head coach in 2014, I was at East Rowan. West Rowan had dominated that county for a long time. East Rowan had been a power out, split back veer team forever and ever and ever. And everybody in the county ran the football. They ran the football. They ran the football. And I knew that the only way that I could get kids to want to come out and play for us, we were a baseball school, is I had to almost create a gimmick offense. And that offense was, we're going to throw the football as much as we can. And I had people come up to me, you can't go 4 wide here. You can't go 3 wide here. You can't throw the football 40 times a game. Why not? Hell, we had a lot of games where we threw the football 50 times a game in 2014. We had a lot of games where we had 4 and 5 touchdowns, and we celebrated that. So it's almost a scheme, but it's something that draws kids in. If I'm a wide receiver, I don't want to go play for a wing T football team. No offense, Coach Phillips. If I'm a wide receiver or quarterback, I want to be throwing that thing out there. And so I think that has a lot to do with it, but I think the success of the program, the branding of the program, the head coach, and the belief that that coaching staff is going to work hard for their kids, that's what gets kids to want to come to you.
Dude, you hit that nail on the head. And I'm going to give Coach Billups a chance to respond to that little shot right there.
I'm going to say for my new OG, Sam Griner. He won a state championship with that wing team.
That's true. That's true. That's true. It's true. It's true. It's true.
Oh, that's good stuff. Good stuff. All right. So, that's the last shot on this, man. A lot of, the player movement, like we've been saying, parent driven, that's cool. And Coach McClain, last point about offensive fit, it makes perfect sense. You don't want a quarterback that's going to, be 6'3", strong arm, great potential, playing in a power offense, throwing the ball 5-8 times a game. You want to maximize his potential. So, moving for that reason, absolutely, I get it. Schools that do better things than others, from the marketing aspect, from getting offers to kids, we get that as well. So, players have reached out to us in DMs about moving schools, asking about different coaches. To be honest with you, I tell them, to reach out to their current head coach first, let them know they have some concerns, seeing if that's something that they can work out first. We always try to encourage a kid, try to work it out with your head coach first. But if it's irreconcilable, if I could talk, then of course, if you need information about moving on, we'll be glad to, help you the best way we know how. And it's the same thing with parents. We probably get more parents reaching out than kids to the point of, parents looking to make moves that they think is best for their son, to maximize their potential and get to the next level. So I want to thank the panel. A lot of great discussion on that topic right there. We're going to switch gears. We've been doing a lot. Well, I'll say a lot, but we're doing a couple of interviews with some legendary high school football coaches. We talked to Steve Shaughnessy. He was very gracious, invited me into his home. You guys saw both parts of that here recently. And then we talked recently with Independence legendary coach Bill Geiler, longtime defensive coordinator Tom Knotts over from Harding, West Charlotte, Independence, and just won, so many games, so many championships. Was the head coach of the 2004 Independence Patriots, probably the best team in the history of North Carolina high school football, and a lot of people's opinions. So I'm going to give the panel a chance to talk about some legendary high school football coaches, and then I'll finish up with, a couple of thoughts on that. And I'm going to start with Coach Billups on this one because he has one that I think is really underrated, and he, deserves some love. And I'm going to try to, reach out to him and talk to him as well. So, Coach Billups, what you got here?
Thank you. So, when you speak West Charlotte, everybody talk about Tommy Knotts and stuff like that. But I got to shout out my head coach for 2 years, Coach Peter Gilchrist. Coach Gilchrist, man, what he did after Coach Knotts and Mike Helms, who had for 1 year, what he did with us in the 2 years I was there, when he took over, we just had lost. We didn't go to playoff that year. The first time West Charlotte had been in playoff in a while. He took us. I think we lost a couple. We lost the Independence, unfortunately, but everybody did. But we went to playoff. We lost at North Davidson in the first round. Then my senior year, we made it all the way to the game before the state. We lost to AC Reynolds. And the reason why I say he's so legendary, you got to look at, he had on his staff, he had a young, and when I mean young, a very young coach, Jason Fowler, on it. He was his O-line coach, who, now he's the AD at East Meck. He had one of the greatest defensive coordinators I ever played for. Greg Hill. I love Coach Hill, and I love, it was just a family aspect. I remember, back in them days, my family used to take family vacations and stuff like that. I didn't go because I had football practice. And they were like, well, how you don't get down? I said, I'm going to walk. And I remember walking from where I lived at that time. I came to my grandmother's house, who lived behind Friendship Missionary Baptist Church, walking from there all the way to football practice for morning practice and afternoon practice. That's how dedicated I was, because he made us feel like family. He made us feel, it was just a great atmosphere. I still love Coach Gilchrist. Coach Gilchrist is my guy. I still call it Coach Fowler. Still every now and then. I saw Coach Hill when I first started coaching when he was at Ashboro, and we had a moment. He was laughing at me, and he said, "I can't believe Boom over here coaching." I said, "Yeah, but he made high school football fun for this kid from the West Side. He's a legend in my eyes. He should be." And a lot of people, he did a lot of great things at Olympic too, prior to coming to West Charlotte. But, that's my guy.
I got a funny story with Gilchrist. We were coaching at Harding, back when the rivalry was still popping, back in the day. And it felt like we had him nailed because he would run plays in a series on offense. And we started nailing that series down. But the testament to him being a great coach was we knew what the hell was coming. And, they still went out and out-executed us against knowing what was coming.
Yeah.
And there's a game they played. There was at Harding. They had Ren McKinnon at quarterback.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I was there. I was on that team. That was my senior year.
That was one of the better West Charlotte Harding games in a long time. And,
yes.
McKinnon, we knew he was a running quarterback. But they set up, I think it was the fourth quarter. I think we were down by like 5. And they set up this beautiful play action pass. We knew it was coming, covered it, And then McKinnon broke off for like a 70-yard run to seal the game, and we were just sick. We were like, man, this Gilchrist every dang on time.
Red McKinnon was sunshine. He was the real form sunshine. He is one of the most unappreciated quarterbacks in Charlotte-Mecklenburg history. Not talking about West Charlotte, Charlotte-Mecklenburg. That dude was power clean, 375 his senior. He was a freak. He played strong safety too sometimes. Wow. But I love Coach Gilchrist. You always knew we was on poo kick. We were not gonna kick it all. We were on poo kick. That was his thing. He had them songs like said, "Go on out there and poo kick." You know, I love that dude. He amazing. You know.
Yeah, he's definitely underrated. That's a great call, Coach. That's a good one.
Couldn't even hear that game. I hated that Harden game. I couldn't hear no play. That's why y'all was in the game. God, dog.
We're gonna talk later on that one. Let's go to
Brandon. You know, when you mention legends of this area, you know, Knott is usually the first name that comes up. But I think I'm gonna shout out somebody from a little further up 85. I think I'm gonna go Coach Easy Smith from Concord. Probably doesn't get mentioned as much as he probably should down in the Charlotte area because Cabarrus County, but just the success he had is noteworthy. Being there, I think 29, almost 30 years. Countless conference championships. I think 2, correct me if I'm wrong, I think 2 state titles. Just to be able to have success for that long a stretch in a competitive area of football, keeping that rivalry going with A.L. Brown, plenty of, Coach of the Year awards and things like that. I think just that tenure, he might not have the state titles as some coaches, as many, but just being successful for that long in a competitive area is noteworthy. Had a chance to, I think my senior year, had a chance to play against them. Had a chance to, got a chance to meet him a couple of years ago on the sideline of the game. Real nice guy. So I think he deserves plenty of credit.
If I turn my microphone on, maybe you would hear me.
There you go.
I know that's one that Coach McClamrock can talk a lot on, being a Concord graduate. And we actually talked about this the first time we met a couple years ago. But Easy Smith is a real cool dude. You remember he taught with us at I think it was at Huff?
Yeah, a couple years ago.
That Huff Mooresville game. Just real personable, down to earth. Just a real great guy. That's a good call on that one. All right, let's go to Coach Crowell and get his thoughts on this topic.
Well, Brandon, since you went up 85, I'm gonna go a little bit further up 85. Take 85 all the way through Raleigh and Durham, hit the split, and go 264. I'll go 64 East and 264 on into Wilson, North Carolina, where there's a gentleman. And Pep man, make sure you get me on this one. I got to make sure I get this clip, because this guy is a guy that does not, unless you come in 264 East or on the other side, eastern side of Raleigh, not a lot of people really know about this guy in the big cities. But man, there's a guy by the name of Coach Tyrone Johnson down there at Bedingfield High School, who, man, this guy is legendary. Bedingfield High School prior to that, and just Eastern North Carolina football prior to that was very much a running, ground and pound area for football. A lot of big time running backs came from the area. And so to see Coach Johnson come in to Bedingfield and bring that and bring the spread offense, I mean, it was something that, as a kid coming from little Winston-Salem, when I transferred there my junior year, I traveled 3 hours to go live with my grandparents in Wilson, North Carolina, leaving Winston-Salem and leaving my parents to go live in Wilson, because I felt like that was a system that could work for me. I mean, it literally was the perfect system in an area where everybody else was still running the ball, ground and pound. Man, this guy, man, who played at East Carolina, an incredible guy, man, just an incredible coach. and also was the first guy to give me an opportunity in coaching on the high school level. He was the guy who gave me the shot. I was in Durham coaching on the middle school level and interning at North Carolina Central at the time. Gave me the shot, gave me the opportunity. So, man, Coach Tyrone Johnson, man, Bedingfield High School, greatest high school football coach in Eastern North Carolina. If you really, really kind of pay attention outside of maybe Tarboro, outside of the conglomerate that is Tarboro, when you start thinking Wilson High School football, you think Coach Johnson. Now, Coach Gilchrist, that's one of the things I do wish I would have had the opportunity to play under Coach Gill. Coach Gill, I came from Norfolk State High School in Winston-Salem when I transferred to Wilson, North Carolina. Coach Gill, man, came to North, man, presented himself. I think his wife was from Winston-Salem, and really wish I would have had the opportunity to play under Coach Gill. I think I had worked out that summer with him, maybe the first month of that summer, and then, by that time, my parents had already made the decision that I need to go ahead and go east and go live with my grandparents. But, man, anytime I see Coach Gill from here on in, man, I've always shown him love. Got a lot of love. A lot of my best friends in this world played under Coach Gill, man. And another guy who came from Winston-Salem, they came down here to Charlotte after being a Winston-Salem legend, Coach Wilkes, Coach Keith Wilkes, Winston-Salem legend, man, won state championship at Carver. So, Coach Tyrone Johnson, man, so, that's what I would say. That's what I would say is a legendary coach.
Good call, man, and good call on Coach Wilkes, man. That's awesome. I think he just retired, and
yeah,
I think he was inducted into a Hall of Fame. I remember seeing something like that somewhere.
I don't see a reason why he wouldn't won 2 state championships at Carver High School. Countless opportunities going deep into the playoffs, countless conference championships. Really renewed the tradition at Carver High School. Carver being one of the oldest traditional high schools in Winston-Salem. When he came there, he renewed the tradition of Carver High School football. Yeah. And, I had the opportunity at front hand center chance to see, the state championship run they did in 2001 when my uncle Juwan was on the team. And I mean, just a legend, man. And major congrats to really all of those coaches. But much love to Coach Gilchrist as well, man. I got nothing but love for Coach Gill, man.
Well said. Coach Clamrock, you got the last shot on this.
Yeah, Brandon took the easy one for me. Every year before we'd start official practice, I'd get together with my coaches and I would tell them that one of the most special and most rewarding relationships that a young man can have is a relationship with his position football coach. With all the ups and the downs, the effort and the dedication and the sacrifice and the time that's involved, the relationship between a coach and his player is a relationship that can last a lifetime. Coach Smith is definitely one of those relationships. To me, what made him so special as a head coach was two things, is he could make anybody believe that they were the most important player on the field. As a head coach, I used to tell my assistants all the time, make your position group believe that they're the most important position on the field. And that's because I learned that from Coach Smith. The second thing that he did so masterfully was he knew how to get the pieces to fit just right in the puzzle, man. He would move guys around. I mean, that first state championship team he had in 2004, I believe it was, when they were 0-3, and he made some moves, and he benched his quarterback and moved him to wide receiver and put a basketball player at quarterback, and they won 13 in a row. Just special stuff. When I was in high school, we went over there on Saturday mornings and we watched game film at his house. He would order a bunch of chicken wings from a gas station, and we'd watch the football game. So since he's taken, I'm going to go with another person that's near and dear to my heart. Another high school coach. He was never a head coach, but that's Coach Clement Fleming. Anybody who played at Concord from 1980 to 2008, they know Clement Fleming. He is a special person. He coached defensive line. He coached running backs. We were talking just a few weeks ago, and I told him that every time I see a guy that I went to high school with, or a girl for that matter, you always come up. And he asked me, he said, Coach, why is that? And I told him, I said, Coach, for a whole lot of people, you were the first black male figure of authority that we knew. For us white kids, you were the first one that we knew. And for a lot of the black kids, you were that male father figure, and it was a male father figure to me for 6 years as a head coach. Every Friday morning, I got a text message from Coach Fleming wishing me luck. And it said, I love you and I'm proud of you. And as a head coach, so much of who I wanted to be was what Coach Fleming was to me and what he was to literally thousands and thousands of kids who played at Concord High School. Just the best of the best. Was never a head coach. I wish he was, but very, very grateful for who he is in my life today still.
That's some great insight. And, I've heard some great things about that man you just mentioned. That's a great call. They all don't have to be head coaches.
Mm-hmm.
There have been some great coordinators. Talking to Coach Geiler, John Strong, the OC with Tom Knotts, man, what a legend he was.
I was fortunate to work with John Strong for 1 year.
Mm-hmm.
I wish that I wasn't as young. Back then I knew everything, so I didn't have anything to learn from him. But if you knew the amount of times I thought to myself, if I could go back to 2008 and learn from John Strong all the knowledge that he had. I mean, just an incredible. We called him the professor. He had a mustache and the glasses and the bald head. Incredible guy and incredible coach.
Absolutely. I'm gonna finish this one up. I've got 4 that I want to name, and I'm gonna start with some that may not be as obvious, and then finish with the one you probably are waiting on. Benny McMurray. Man, what a great head coach. He was really big in South Carolina at Louisville High School. But, he moved on, and was coach at Waddell, for a few years. And I remember playing him at Harding. And we ran a 3-wide, 2-back offense. No tight end, just, 3 wide receivers, 2 backs. And they had a lot of trouble with it. And he came to us after the game and said he wanted to sit with us and learn our offense. And we were floored. Like, we got this legendary state championship coach wanting to learn our little offense we put together just from, what we had. We didn't really have a tight end. We had some skilled guys. We had 2 good backs and a good quarterback that could run and move around. And we were just doing some misdirection motion, type stuff with it. But he wanted to learn from us, which, that was an incredible, experience with him just sitting there with us talking football for a couple hours. Of course, Bruce Harden. Of course, Coach McClarenrock and Brandon mentioned E.C. Smith, on the other side of it, Bruce Harden, for so many years, just, won so many games. I played against A.L. Brown when he was there toward the end, and he was coaching his sons. And I tell you, those guys were just so dang on prepared. It wasn't anything where they were just more physical than you. They just out-executed you, and they played so fast. And then the environment that, he was a part of up there in K-Town, and he was a very, very nice man as well. Touched a lot of kids' lives and moved on to Providence. And last I heard, he was down, in the South Carolina, Charleston area, coach, and he may be fully retired now. One I'm going to mention that's a little more recent, and I'm going to tell you why I mentioned his name, is Mike Palmieri. He just left and moved to Georgia, taking a job. He came in where, coming off the era of Independence and then Butler, leading the city. And he started that Mallard Creek program. And, that first year, of course, was little bumps in the road. But, starting with Marquise Williams, a quarterback, he helped build that program into something that was, feared and respected throughout the whole state of North Carolina. And, just the immense amount of talent that he built there in a short period of time. You can say what you want about him, but, he was successful and got the job done. That first year, of course, I think, he, deserves, credit, to be mentioned in this conversation. But of course, the one that everyone knows is Tom Knotts. If you watch the first part of, our interview with Coach Bill Gowden, you'll get a lot of great insight into, Tom Knotts, how he developed, his first year at Harding up through, the championship run. We've got 2 parts of that. One more part to put out over the next couple of days. But, this man changed football program. There's a great picture out there. I'm gonna put it up one day where they are in the front of the Charlotte-Mecklenburg in the weight room in their jerseys in the pregame. They're lifting, and back then that was something that you didn't hear, you didn't see very often. His offense, he was trying to emulate Joe Gibbs stuff in the 80s with the Washington Redskins and the H-back and movement and all that. Way ahead of his time here in the area when everyone was just still running wing T and power I and just running dives and traps. Setting, a standard that, was just incredible. And then, of course, not even mentioning what he did, moving on, to independence and the streak and the, 7 state championships and all the players moving on to the NFL and, all of that. Just, he's the king, man. He's the king. We went and saw him as coaches at Harding one time up at a coaches clinic in North Carolina, University of North Carolina. And, he was kind of telling the story on how he built little old Harding into a state championship team. And we were kind of in the back. We were like, hey, Harding's in here. We were like, oh, no offense. And he came over and talked to us for about a good 45 minutes just about the experience of coaching there. And, it was awesome. It was awesome. But I'm going to bring the panel back because it's about that time. And when it's about that time, we got to get everybody on here because we got to sound off. And it's been a long week, and I'm gonna go last because I got a real strong sound off. I'm gonna let y'all go first. That's all I'm gonna say. All right, Cherie, sound off.
All right. So for almost 2 decades, people have been fighting about trying to get this name changed, and finally, after folks started hitting the pockets, the Redskins will be no more. And I don't care what got done to, provoke this. I'm just happy to see it happen because I feel like, a lot of these people don't understand that, like, for most of these people, this was a name that was offensive to them. And, I read about a lady who has been fighting this for those 2 decades to get this name changed. And she is Native American. So, I'm just happy to see that.
Well said, Cherie. Well said. Thank you so much. And it's a great thing, that they're looking at, trying to correct the wrongs of the past here. Let's go to Brandon.
I think I'm just trying to be, as far as the future goes, as optimistic as possible that, it safety first, but if we can piece together some sorts of normalcy, even a shortened season with a shortened playoffs, I think that's better than nothing. But, I just want the kids and the staff and the teachers and everything to be safe. That's number one. But just being optimistic, and if there's no football, then let's help the kids that don't get to play as much as possible, help them get their name out, help them just be optimistic as possible. And hopefully, if things go well, that maybe we can have a by the book season in 2021. So we just got to, keep pushing forward, be optimistic, and hope for the best.
Well said, Brandon. Well said. I wish the same things, man. Let's go to Coach Billups. There we go.
You have me muted. It's just like I've been saying. Coaches, we need to be more united right now. Be more focused on our players, and let's put our personal differences aside for everybody who got some. You see it all the time, but. Like me, I used to be one of the main ones in all kinds of heating and I just found my peace. Find your peace, find your happiness. Keep these kids first, man. You got a lot of young men and you got people in the school building that other students that look up to you. I never knew how big an impact I had until when I got to Providence. And when I left, how many messages I got on Instagram, on Twitter about what it meant, how they were sad I was left. But, to stay, you gotta understand they're always eyes watching. We don't gotta do all this stuff. Shout out to everybody. Keep on doing what you're doing. Big shout out to my brother, Coach Ladd. I done brought him up numerous times. He back in school pursuing some degrees. He's making real smart decisions during this time. And even my AD, Josh Harris, he's doing, looking to go the admin route. So, there's a lot of great men that are doing great things. And I want to salute you guys and keep doing everything you're doing.
Thank you, Coach. Well said, man. Well said. Coach McClaren, sound off.
Nick Cannon. I gotta bring up Nick Cannon, man. What the heck? Come on, dog, man. This is 2020. We've made so many positive moves and positive advances, and then Nick Cannon wants to come up with this crap here. If you read just his talking points and you don't see a race or skin color, you wouldn't know if it was George Wallace or Nick Cannon. Come on, Nick. We're better than that, big dog, man. Let's come together. Let's do things the right way, man. Let's get beyond all that bull, and let's make some real changes.
I hear you, Coach. I hear you. I like that, man. Thank you. Coach Kroll, sound off.
All right, I can sound off now. All right, cool. I've said once, I'll say it again. All right, high school football, maybe not. But the MEAC, the CIAA, the SEAC, the SWAC, I'm calling you out. Spring football is your opportunity. You're now seeing that the Power 5 conferences and now some of the mid-level conferences have decided that they're only going to have in-conference schedules. That does not benefit you at all, because some of the money that you get into your programs, as everybody knows, comes from these non-conference games. When you play against Power 5, you play against mid-level 5, or Group of 5 programs, and they have now made a decision. They've drawn their line in the sand. You do not get to benefit knowing that HBCU sports, and that's right, Jamie Richardson, Eagle Pride, baby. We need to take advantage of a spring football season. I just talked to a kid today who is a quarterback at a HBCU. His program has already started talking about what a football season for them in the spring will look like. They've already started having the conversations. Now, can these conversations rotate from conversation to actually happening? I went as far as to even say we cannot afford to miss homecoming, right? So if we're going to miss homecoming for 2020, do a spring homecoming in 2021, and then come right back in the fall and boom, hit them again. And we get a chance to have a great fiscal year for HBCU sports for the year 2021, because 2020 ain't it. Let's move on. Juice Man in the building. Juice Man in the building.
That's great, Coach. That's great. I hear you. All right. So I'm going to really sound off here. And I've been trying to wonder how to broach this topic. But we're going to put our cards on the table. So we here at Charlotte Football Insiders have brought this platform together, Football Focus Weekly. We feel like, we talk about some things that maybe some other people don't want to talk about. Maybe some people that they want to kind of, focus on some other things, bring in some other people to talk about some things. And all that's well and good. I think we all have our place here in this arena. One of the things that you say as a coach, you beg, you borrow, and you steal, which is all well and good in the game of football. But when it comes to this platform, we've been seeing a pattern here at Football Focus Weekly. We've been seeing a pattern that we introduce something such as a debate last week that went over well, and then all of a sudden we see someone else introducing a debate as if it's brand new, as it's fresh, that it's cutting edge, to bring an element that they may not have had. just coincidental that this happens a week after we brought it to the forefront. And that's not the only thing that we've seen that's been coincidental. You know, some things that happened in the past were brought around to the forefront now. And some different things have changed places. So here's the thing. We stay in our place. We address things that need to be addressed. And I think we do a good job with it. But it's obvious that the creative juices may not be the same on the other side. So all we want to say is if you got an idea, come up with it yourself. Good night, everybody.